Pop culture. It's a funny thing because what's considered lame will always find itself back into the zeitgeist.
You're living in a dream world!
Superman is no stranger to this because no matter how uncool he becomes, he'll always come back. But no one could expect the 2010s into the 2020s would be a time with so much hunger for him.
No.
I mean, come on.
No.
Because we were drowned with so much evil twist versions of him that even the official Superman pop culture was given was all about building towards him turning evil and killing everyone. Therefore, for over a decade, Superman stopped being someone people could take for granted. It would actually be refreshing to hear him not say,
"No one stays good in this world."
Instead, the idea of seeing Superman refuse to give up on traditional kindness, refuse to stop being himself in a cruel world, fight a billionaire, try to stop a war, that's what pop culture needed back.
Ow, stop it. Crypto, ow, ow!
So I had pages and pages of ideas for this video, and when it came to actually writing it, it became monstrously hard deciding which path to follow. But then I realized, why not just do everything? And that's what I'm gonna do. Superman opens with a title crawl establishing the new DC universe, where Superman is part of a new phenomenon and the most powerful one. Before this history lesson turns into a countdown before his crash. The text is also accompanied by naturalistic photography reminiscent of Zack Snyder's work, but it's also accompanied by an electric guitar cover of John Williams' theme. In just a few seconds, through these simple creative decisions, the film lets us know that James Gunn knows. This is a piece of media that exists in a greater famous legacy, where unlike Man of Steel, it's not going to pretend the past doesn't exist while retreading the same story with counterproductive changes. Instead, it's going to enthusiastically embrace everything with an appreciative spirit, but also cheekiness, because when we're introduced to Superman, he's attacked by his own dog. James Gunn's attitude is not of an outsider, but as a fan, and like Crypto, he's going to drag you back to where the character belongs, where home is not a strange HR Giga spaceship carrying unfertilized eggs Superman can then genocide against, but a crystal palace filled with servant robots ripped straight from the pages.
No need to thank us, sir, as we will not appreciate it. We have no consciousness whatsoever.
Robots who can't recognize their own sentience, but they clearly are, for sarcastic, blunt.
Four's a name.
So is Gary.
12 giggles. So the first dialogue exchange Superman has with another character is him treating servants with more care than they asked for, even at his lowest, while he also can't handle his dog.
What is this?
Everything in James Gunn's Superman is carefully considered in the best ways and the most flawed ways because he's so clearly working against his own creative skill set. His comfort zone has become reinventing obscure characters with his own personality, and you can see that even in this film.
You have a flying saucer, but you couldn't get a faster garage door?
But now his primary goal is giving life to a character he knows is sacred. The right movie for Superman isn't an introspective comedy about someone dealing with self-hatred, it should be a creative mainstream family film that's even more light-hearted than anything he's ever made before. And Gunn knows this, and he's trying his best to make the best version of that film.
We had like 3 or 4 things that we really argued about in the film. And all of them had to do with things that were a little bit darker or a little bit lighter.
A script you're happy with can only get you so far, but how lines are delivered, how individual scenes should end, how the story should be paced, that's new territory for Gunn.
And in discussing one of them, Drew Goddard was like, you know what? It's just not that film. It's not that film with this little dark ending bit. And I thought, oh, you know what? He's right. It's not that film. It is not that film. And so that line that he said stuck with me for the rest of editing.
In this sense, I gotta say, I find it really hard not to appreciate how in contrast to every other superhero film, all of Superman's shortcomings as a film are not from executive meddling, reshoots, or re-editing due to lukewarm test screenings. Its flaws are from James Gunn, and so is its beauty. And funnily enough, the first 40 minutes exemplifies this. The first act is a weird paradoxical thing, where exposition is carefully doled out to explain what's happened and reiterate what happened in the opening scroll, where the Hammer of Bravia is retaliating against Superman's intervention in Jor-El, but is actually a Superman clone controlled by Lex Luthor.
All it took was combing the aftermath of your battles until I located a strand of your hair.
Clark then goes back to work and is only seen to watch the TV explain who the Barovian president is and introduce his hatred for Superman.
Superman came along.
Which is then further explained when Superman gives Lois an interview about what he did to him.
Flew him out to the desert and
But at the same time, while we're catching up with all these new countries and conspiracies and conflicts, we're also expected to catch up with this version of Superman's cast and status quo. There's no introduction or explanation for anything.
You're late again, Kent. Sorry, Perry.
If you're a normie, your bearings mostly come from how these characters' personalities are immediately identifiable, just from the way they're dressed.
You know what I mean?
And if you're a fan, this version of Lex, Lois, the Daily Planet crew, Clark Kent will all just fit together in an insanely cathartic way because they finally just did it. No weird twists.
Jimmy Olsen, photographer.
Everyone has just walked off the page, so you immediately know who they are and what their relationship with Superman and Clark Kent are gonna be.
Hey, loser. Hey, Steve.
It's actually kind of fucking insane how we've never had a basic Lex Luthor on film before. Hackman lived in the sewers, Spacey lived on a boat, Eisenberg lived in his own feces. It's only now we have someone who's simply just a big bold billionaire hater driven by envy and xenophobia.
So my envy is a calling.
Where Superman's activities are simple because all he has is passion and endurance, Lex has vast financial resources and the obsession to create an entire library of attack and counterattacks used against him, to the point that when we first see Lex, he actually wins. Lex can't tolerate decency because it simplifies the world down to right or wrong actions. But he needs profits, intelligence, and personal gain to be the measure of someone's worth. Otherwise, people won't worship him.
Pick that up.
Lex is only worth worshipping in a world where you don't expect compassion, and instead everyone worships men for their wealth, political influence, and decadence.
Cultish acolytes believe he's going to create a technologically advanced utopia.
Utopia.
There's a profit factor as well. I mean, the petroleum deposits alone are worth multiples of his investment.
But in a world where decency is popular, he can't compete. Therefore, instead of becoming a better person, he'd rather think of any reason to discredit Superman. He's an alien.
Alien.
He dresses stupid.
Stupid outfit.
His existence makes us feel small.
Because his strength illuminates how weak we all really are.
The rich man can't see the world without envy,
Nothing's felt right since he showed up.
so he'd rather burn it all down for his own gratification.
No, they chose him. Let them die. We'll close it from the bunker before it gets to the city I care about.
Pa is stern while Ma is sweet. Steve Lombard tries to be the office alpha. Cat Grant is cool.
I thought it was great, Clark.
Clark has a big brother bond with Jimmy and a rivalry with Lois.
And I'd actually have to make it through your writing, Clark.
She's incredibly sharp, while Clark interviews himself and probably writes about Metropolis's best cannolis.
I was hoping I could finish work on my story about Metropolis's best cannolis.
I'm also glad that Superman doesn't look like The Rock pretending to be Superman like Henry Cavill did.
Yes, sir.
As a result, in their date-turned-interview, we see Lois isn't a Superman fangirl he's sleeping with.
Do you eat?
Yes.
She instead struggles to see things his way.
Yeah, I would question myself in the same situation and hold off a beat and consider the consequences.
People were going to die.
The whole scene gave me Superman and Lois vibes, and I fucking love it.
Thanks for having me.
Anyway, within the context of this whole film, the fun twist with this version of Lois is that despite her differences, she loves Clark because she's a former rocker chick who trained herself to be in control of her id in order to be good at her job.
Party like a rock star, choir boy. Still can't hide the taste of petroleum.
But in the same way she needs to put an absurd amount of sugar in her coffee to make it bearable, Superman answers a similar emotional need during their 3 months together.
How long have they been hooking up?
About 3 months, I think.
So like sugar or snacking, she doesn't know if he's good for her, yet.
I was gonna break up with him.
While Clark recognizes their chemistry and is fully committed to enjoying it, which means they're definitely being fucking like wild rabbits.
I think she gets exercise chasing the story. And in a couple other ways.
He's not. We're just seeing each other.
As a result, I think this version of Lois and Clark may actually be the best version. George Reeves and Phyllis Coates, then Noel Neill were kind of just like bros.
There goes a young man with courage.
Well, I wish I could say the same for you.
Christopher Reeve and Margot Kidder are a classic, but it always kind of just felt like Superman was just dating his fan. I like the Lois and Clark version a lot, especially this moment.
Well, join with me in making this country great again.
Again?
But in the end, they're not really characters, they're silly rom-com versions. Brandon Routh and Kate Bosworth, I nostalgically like them, but they're not really given a lot of opportunity to be charismatic because Superman Returns is just so melancholy. Henry Cavill and Amy Adams are sexy people, but it also kind of looked like he wanted a backhander the whole time.
Go, Lois.
Tom Welling and Urquhart as a pair are still my favourite out of nostalgia and just how satisfying the development of their relationship is across a decade. But also, it's a version tailored around Smallville's really weird canon.
This place hasn't changed a bit since I last saw it.
While depending on the day, Tyler Hoechlin and Bitsy Tulek are my favourite individual versions of these characters. But as a couple, they always felt like besties who just got married and had kids because they hit that age where it's like, why not?
Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
Which happens, so it's not unbelievable, but that means it doesn't have the same hot sauce David Cornsweet and Rachel Brosnahan have.
I needed to believe that this was a guy that a woman this intelligent would actually fall in love with, and I also needed to believe that this was a woman that was going to challenge somebody who was a super powerful alien from another planet, so that they had this ping pong relationship that we need to have, and the sexual chemistry that they have that's so palpable as they stand here today.
Anyway, on one hand, I found this general approach of jumping into the story and world midstream incredibly disorientating and claustrophobic in my first viewing, because I didn't know what I'm supposed to feel from all the geopolitics, Lex's goofy control room, serious conversations at the Pentagon, then Nathan Fillion, Pocket Universe, and a man gets shot in the f***ing head. While something as simple as an opening flashback, like in Superman and Lois, could have solved this feeling of being lost in a sequel where you haven't seen the first one.
He's back.
But that would get in the way of this film's ultimate goal. The intended combined effect of catching up with a story mid-crisis and catching up with characters in the middle of their lives is to forego a traditional 3-act hero's journey and instead just let us spend a week with the hero.
Never seen you sleep that long.
Where, similarly to James Gunn's Creature Commandos, the equilibrium that balances all this insane stuff is the sense of mundanity.
Lex is holding Superman in a pocket universe.
We are here to observe the characters in a snapshot, a moment that is significant enough to warrant being a story, but mundane enough that you can apply your observations to an understanding of the characters beyond it.
Did Mighty Crabjoy suck?
Okay, well, a lot of people love him.
Thus, all this character work values something different than an arc. It's not learning who the character is on a transformative day, but in terms of every day, the essentials of who these people are. This type of scaling is why Superman actually tends to thrive on TV. You can get right down to how his sense of self is crafted by his banal routines. His simple joys is what provides him with an identity that can resist temptations towards greed or godhood.
I'm not really into the whole nightlife scene.
Wow.
That's why the film is bookended with Superman sunbathing, why Kara picks up Krypto, who was ultimately dog-sitting the whole time, and why in the original edit, there was supposed to be distinct title cards telling you which day it was. As a superhero film released in 2025, this is fascinating as an example of media convergence because it simulates what it's like to pick up a random comic issue. James Gunn knows the audience are so experienced with endless sequels and reboots when it comes to superhero stuff that they won't even think of this film as being incomplete. They're comfortable with the genre enough to fill in the blanks for themselves. The evidence is that my normie best friend didn't have my disorientating feeling and said the film's intention was pretty f***ing obvious. So I guess I'm just dumb. They also didn't even ask who the Justice Gang were. They're familiar enough with the boys, so they understood the idea of corporate superheroes. But in this version, they're friendly with supes, despite having no issues with killing people. The Justice Gang shows Superman is special not because of his powers, but because he's not like them. He doesn't swear.
Good gosh, there's gotta be a better way to do this.
In the fight, the role he gives himself is saving people, and he's not tempted by money.
I'd just like to say thank you on behalf of Lord Tech Industries.
Superman is not a police officer or a mercenary. He's more like a firefighter or a paramedic because he believes in something greater than punitive action.
That my parents had sent me here to serve the people of Earth.
We have searched the universe for a home where you can do the most good.
Be a good man.
His entire sense of self and role in life is framed around his dynastic sense of purpose, where his godlike, compassionate parents have bestowed upon him the gift of life and a graceful mission. Their message soothed him in recovery.
We love you more than land.
That message is why I do what I do. I cherish it more than anything.
And it's clear in this version, it's why he wears the House of El symbol. He's literally living out their dream. Believing the truth of Krypton was not about him, but everyone else. To love everyone as his parents loved him.
And live out Krypton as truth.
Bravia invaded Jarhanpur, and I showed up and told them that wasn't right.
It's why he gets up in the morning and runs straight to battle every day. But then here comes the twist. So Lex fails to convince the US government to take action against Superman due to his popularity.
But the optics? Superman is popular.
So breaks into the Fortress of Solitude to gather evidence, repairing Jor-El and Jor-El's damaged second half of their message.
Rule without mercy.
I'm scared.
Superman was actually tasked here to take over Earth's simple people, kill anyone in his way, take as many women as needed to restore Krypton without mercy.
Take as many wives as you can.
The whole twist blew my fucking mind because it's so strangely cathartic. I remember as a kid in John Byrne's Man of Steel, Lara wanted Kal to rule over Earth. Bendis had Jor-El be an asshole, but more specifically, I remember being a very young lad when Smallville teased this idea.
You're a flawed race, rule them with strength, my son. That is where your greatness lies.
That line made my fucking imagination go insane. The show then proceeded to do nothing major with it. But holy fuck, James Gunn actually committed to it in a mainstream film. I finally got to see this reaction.
I think I was sent here to conquer. What kind of planet am I from?
Fully realized in a complete story. It's also unintentionally hilarious how Jor-El declines across his filmic appearances. Brando's Jor-El was the best of Krypton.
To pronounce judgment on those accused.
The wise, just scientist who wants his son to look after Earth so someday it can achieve the same heavenly grace as Krypton.
Fulfillment of your mission, the inspiration you must have felt. You must have felt that happiness within you.
Russell Crowe's Jor-El was the exception in a garbage civilization that squandered its own advanced civilization by throwing away free will and research into renewable resources until all their digging for oil blew them the fuck up.
Harvesting the core was suicide.
We can deduce Bradley Cooper's Jor-El is probably from a Krypton that's as graceful as Brando's with the crystal and the robot servants, but within their desire for their son to thrive, it also came for a desire for them to have bitches too.
Dude, you got a secret harem? No, guy, of course I don't.
Anyway, I still think there's room for this version of Jor-El not to be like an irredeemable evil conqueror, because the first half of the message is still the usual expected rhetoric.
We have searched the universe for a home where you can do the most good.
I don't get it. What's bad about that?
So I kind of interpreted the second half as being more like a difference in cultural sensibilities, like how my Asian mom would tell me to respect women, but also don't be with a woman who can't cook or clean. I pictured Jor-El and Laura L's words as being an example of parents contradicting the consistency of their own preached values due to their need to make sure their children is comfortable and looked after. But I also might sound like a complete fucking ass when we see this movie followed up.
I have to go down to Brainiac operations.
Regardless, the conflict here for Superman is an emotional one. As opposed to f***ing world engines, Superman has always felt alone. His home is a museum, and now he has to go through the immigrant experience of being told he's not from here, when here is all he knows, and all he has now. The only person Superman needs to learn to honor now is just himself. I'll get to the cans in a moment. As a result, without a glorious mission, Superman has to finally commit to deciding one for himself. During his reaction, Lois encourages him to change his perspective.
My point is I question everything and everyone. You trust everyone and think everyone you've ever met is, like, beautiful.
But what he chooses to do is instead endure and hold steady with who he is. His routine is what defines him. So as someone no longer feeling so whole, he looks to simply save his dog from danger.
Maybe they'll take me wherever they took the dog. I don't know how else to find him.
It's a dog.
Yeah, and he's not even a very good one, but he's out there alone. And he's probably scared.
The quotidian is what he refers to, even if it's no longer supported by the biographical story he told himself. The prison break part of this film is f***ing whack, and my brain really struggles to value the precious real estate it occupies.
For what?
That's the $78,375,000,000 question.
Superman hands himself over to find Krypton, but the US government has outsourced his containment to Lex, so he proceeds to get tortured and interrogated in a secluded pocket universe. While Lois learns of this through Jimmy getting back together with his ex and Lex's current girlfriend, Eve Tessmacher. And then getting help from the Justice Gang.
Shut up.
We merely had one scene in the entire film with Clark Kent, and now we have all this fucking wild shit. However, after rewatching Superman's speech like a million times, as you do, the line,
"But that is being human, and that's my greatest strength,"
suddenly made me realize the purpose of all of this. To prove Superman is right, that the best part of him is his human side, we spend time away from him with a wide variety of humans of all levels of intelligence and emotions, who will then go on to be as instrumental as he is. Mr. Terrific is smart, cold, but he goes out of his way to help Lois anyway.
What's about right?
Guy Gardner and Kendra are borderline buffoonish, but when they see the child lift the Superman flag, they answer the call.
Superman couldn't make it.
Eve Tessmacher seems unintelligent, but she's technically the smartest person in the film for documenting all of Lex's crimes. She helps after witnessing the horrors, and out of love for Jimmy. This guy's death causes Metamorpho to change. The Daily Planet crew uncover and reveals everything. In contrast to Man of Steel, humanity is not this abstract, stoic, undefined thing where the average person is trash and picks fights with people twice their size. Humanity and Superman are filled with a massive cast of good people. It also would have been so easy to have everyone act heroically because Superman inspired them, or they were paying a debt. But instead, they have independent thoughts. They're characterized by a wide range of diverse motivations to do good. Thus, as Superman loves humanity through this time away from him, we also fall in love with humanity in this wonderful, weird, outlandish universe where Pocket Universe exists.
The type of reckless science Lex Luthor specializes in.
What would be lost if you remove it is the same belief when you hear Superman say,
I'm as human as anyone. I love, I get scared, I wake up every morning and despite not knowing what to do, I put one foot in front of the other and I try to make the best choices I can. I screw up all the time, but that is being human, and that's my greatest strength.
None of it is right or wrong. All of it is being vulnerable and being human, being a human being. And in this moment, for you to talk about how it's okay to be vulnerable, you have to be vulnerable, which means showing Lex that your feelings are hurt.
Subsequently, the source of this love from Superman is then explained when he comes home to a world without billionaires and pocket universes. A simple and mundane place that this Superman is a creature of. Once again, I gotta say, I love this version of the Kent farmhouse. It's a converted double-wide trailer with a few cows, a front bench that can barely fit 2 people, and even Clark's room is just like a corner. James Gunn was raised in rural Missouri, so this was authentically based on what he saw. Thus, in contrast to the Donna version, this Kansas isn't mythical, and unlike the Snyder version, the Kents aren't played by celebrities. They look like normal people, fat, bold, and frail, and this frailty tells a story on its own.
Clark, there's something on the box you might want to see.
The Kents don't have a lot, but they don't obsess over what they don't have, and instead recognize the love they can offer to those in need. From a child that arrived illegally,
Here, where?
I'm not going to say that. You know I'm not going to say that.
to acts of clear international injustice.
Without Superman here to stop it this time, the Jarampurians don't have much hope.
I cleaned your boots. I'll go get them for you.
That line from Arthur Kent nearly made me tear up. And I'm Asian, so I never get emotional. Because seeing this sweet, frail old lady who not only cleans her son's boots, that's usually covered in soot and all sorts, but she doesn't have any heartless modern-day indifference. A little boy, once again, needs to be helped. It doesn't matter if they're from across the world.
Who are you to tell us what to do? All I'm telling you is that little creature in there has as much right to live as you do.
While Jonathan Kent seemed more distant earlier, he's neither a dreamer like Glenn Ford or a psychopath like Kevin Costner.
Maybe.
Instead, he never wanted his son to follow a particular path he laid out.
Parents aren't for telling their children who they're supposed to be. We are here to give y'all tools, help you make fools of yourselves all on your own.
He just simply recognizes that it's actions that is what makes someone who they are. It's a belief system that's not remotely groundbreaking or reinvents anything, but it's this simplistic basicness that is what makes this version of the Kent so striking. We live in what feels like an alternate reality in 2025, where generations of basic empathy taught to us is not only actively contradicted, but we're encouraged to stop believing in them. Therefore, in the same way when you go to Disneyland and everyone around you are in a world of make-believe, where people in costumes aren't just people in costumes, but are the real characters, we're in a make-believe hyper-reality now, where we pretend it's normal to not expect compassion from our own governments. Because in the end, our new reality is all about rooting for those born into wealth, rather than those born into vulnerable positions. We pretend the increasing unaffordability of our own lives is natural and not man-made. We all know the truth, that something could be done about this, but it's easier to pretend there isn't, because it's too exhausting to believe the criminalization of the poor and the legalization of the wealthy stealing from us is bad.
Ignoring science in favor of populist leaders who tell you that the floods and the fires and the disease are unrelated to your own actions. Valuing profit over survival.
So we ought to surrender our own memories of an authentic and recognizable reality for the performance of pretending humanity never could strive beyond selfishness and self-hatred. We can't be more than a game of Monopoly. However, in fiction, we can have escape. We can see something else. In symbols, we have directions. And in Superman, we have a blueprint. Because he's been around long before all of us, so his basic answers feel more real than our modern make-believe hyper-reality.
the night went Don't you understand? All these things happened because you were frightened.
In just a few minutes, the Kent anchors this entire film back into a classic reality we're all familiar with again, where America isn't a place where you go and make money from indulging in the 7 deadly sins, but where everyone is tuned into the same basic belief of building a country through helping your neighbours and welcoming others and sharing a dream where everyone can choose their own destiny. Perhaps it was all propaganda and marketing, but it set a tone for a reality where people should know better.
America was founded on the notion that a person should be free to follow his or her destiny.
And America was founded on the virtues of a helping hand, of going 5 miles to lend your neighbor a donkey or whatever he needed. And I think that is that kind of virtue that's at the bottom, that's the heart of Superman. The genuine love of people, and that you always know he's your friend.
Ever since McCarthy came to
McCarthy? He's no excuse. Whatever party, whatever administration, there'll always be boogeymen like him. We need our heroes to stand up and show us what this country is supposed to mean.
As about a way of looking at the world that Superman represents. In fact, he says at the end of the movie, in a line that I wrote, he says,
I just wish you could all see the Earth the way that I see it.
Because when you really look at it, it's just one world. And what he means is not something political. He means from his point of view out in space when he's out there hanging around. It's the view you get from the space shuttle, and you see the Earth as this beautiful, fragile marble just hanging there in space, and that we need to take better care of it. We should think of ourselves, all of us, this world is Smallville, is a small town, and we should feel like neighbors. And if that idea sort of subliminally gets planted in kids throughout the world, then something can grow from that.
This simple belief system is why Jonathan couldn't be prouder of his son, and it's why Superman carries on. This vision of humanity propelled him to become who he is, as much as his Kryptonian heritage.
You trust everyone and think everyone you've ever met is, like, beautiful.
Maybe that's the real punk rock.
If he was raised by people who had very little, but their love and basic compassion was always enough, then of course, wanting more wouldn't be on his mind, nor ruling over the planet. Therefore, this authentic reality of the Kents, that's the key. Wait, hold on. James Gunn's decision to make Ma and Pa Kent the stupid rednecks without a choice, and Superman has to be saved like repeatedly. On a movie this size, every decision is a choice made carefully, and DC Studios co-head Peter Safran is a Princeton guy, a year ahead of me, but he's never hired me. The fuck? Pop culture is a funny thing, because what's popular in popular culture changes based on the needs of the climate. James Gunn's Superman isn't high art, but Superman isn't supposed to be. It's the people's art. I think that's why everyone was so eager to immediately celebrate this film's inspirational and hopeful message. The Snyderverse deprived pop culture by taking away the face of what the Man of Tomorrow should look like, and gave us despair and anxiety during a decade of despair and anxiety.
I'm afraid I didn't see it because I wasn't looking.
But Superman was always created to be a power fantasy that could answer the injustices of the time.
Even the great city of Metropolis was not spared the ravages of the worldwide depression.
And America in the 2020s has created an alternate reality that supports values that are so contradictory to everything it once loved about itself that it can't look in the eye of a simple cartoon character like Superman, because even his most uncontroversial details are now controversial.
I'm an illegal immigrant, Mom.
As a result, Superman at his most basic, untouched by time, ironically has made him more interesting in 2025 America. The blueprint Superman provides here isn't to let time change you, but to double down on the values you know are true. Everyone deserves a chance, even if they're a million miles away. Life isn't about the narrow vision of infinite economic growth. Intellectualizing film is already a weird exercise, because film by nature is not an intellectual medium, it's an emotional one. And this film puts its hands in so many jars just to be able to put on display everything we love about Superman, that it is messy. However, it has purpose. It can reconnect us with his blueprint for the everyday fight for the future.
And someday, I hope, for the sake of the world, you understand that it's yours too.
And I'm not sure about you. Seeing a man who sees his envy as a calling, as opposed to a f***ing sin, get bitten by a dog, all of a sudden, reality makes sense again. So this was the James Gunn Superman video. When I said I didn't have footage for this film in my last video, I didn't expect the film to be literally digitally released the following day. So here it is. Special thanks to everyone on Patreon. Have a week, you guys.
Looking for Pete Ross. Do you know him?
Yeah, he works at the IHOP.
Everyone has a social security number.
Well, I don't.
I guess that explains why we can't locate any of your tax returns.
We're living in an age when people are basically afraid of contact with each other. They're afraid. People live in cities, they don't even know their neighbors. They're afraid to go out in the street, something might happen to them. Basically, technology is against you. Life is overwhelming. Even the bank doesn't know who you are. And it's like, we run around scared a lot.